Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm John Brooks, your host today, and today we are going to talk about the how the engineering teams and product teams work together, and we will talk about how communication is happening between them and how they make decisions, how they approach the technical design and according to business needs, and how they address the technical issues. So. Today, my guest is Göksel, and Göksel is working as a principal iOS engineer in Drop Kitchen in Dublin, in Ireland. And Göksel is an old colleague of mine from Istanbul, and he started his career in startup and then switched to the finance and communication industries. And now he's working, currently he's working in smart home appliance industry. So without further ado, welcome Göksel.
Hello, my friend. So this will be my first English stream. So we will see how it goes. Thanks for the invite.
It's a pleasure. So don't feel the stress. We are just chatting here. And so tell us a bit about your current work. What does Drop Kitchen do, and what's your role in there?
So okay, I always use the same example when I'm explaining what Drop does to other people. So if you want to buy a TV at the moment, you could probably not buy a non-smart TV. So like the same thing is happening in the kitchen industry at the moment. Yeah. So like the appliances are started to be smart, and I think at some point you will probably not find anything not smart. So at Drop, like we are kind of positioning ourselves to satisfy the needs in this area. And what the app does is, so you can basically use your smart appliances with our app. And our app also has a really large recipe catalog. And using this recipe catalog, you can use your, like when you are following a recipe step by step. For example, if you have a smart oven, and if the recipe has a preheat step, you could simply press start from the app and your oven would start. So this is basically the feature set we are providing to the users through Drop. And also, like if you also don't have a smart appliance, you could still use the app. But for example, if you don't have a smart appliance, you will probably see the recipe in a different way than someone with a smart appliance. So like this is shortly what we do at Drop.
Okay, so what's your role there?
I'm working as a principal iOS engineer at Drop.
So what's principal iOS engineer? So what does principal engineer do actually?
Okay, this is the hard question. Like different companies put different weights and different names to these kind of roles, as far as I see. I think some companies have staff engineers, for example. So like I think the expectation from this kind of role kind of changes from company to company, but I will just try to explain what I do at Drop. So basically I still code. So I think at least 50% of my time is still going with coding. And other than this, like there are also some strategic aspect to this role. So basically you're expected to get familiar with the company goals and kind of navigate the technical decisions through these, like to contribute to these company goals. I'm also working with engineers from different platforms on a daily basis. This could be Android engineers, platform engineers. So we all work together to, come up with high impact solutions. And I think my position also involves some kind of mentoring on a daily basis as well. I think this kind of summarizes what I do daily.
But you still like 50% of time you spend coding still, right?
Yeah, more or less.
Okay. I want to ask like how the work is going on in Drop. So like are you working with Scrum or Waterfall or like maybe different agile methodology? Also, to people who is watching chat, write which strategy do you follow? Like, do you follow which one, like Kanban or Scrum, Agile, maybe Waterfall, or maybe something different? Just write in the chat and let's see how Göksel is explaining their process.
So, like from an agile process perspective, we use Kanban, but the whole feature development process is probably a little different than the other places I work in, at least. So everything starts with a problem. So basically, someone comes up with a problem, and we should be able to prove that's a problem, backing that up with some data, analytics data probably. And then we basically get into a room with everyone in the team. This means like all the engineers we have in the team, product owner, designers, and try to come up with ways to solve this problem. After this stage, we have some kind of to be able to pick a solution from all the alternatives. We sometimes do some prototyping, do user testing, and then after this, when we know what we want to do, we kind of formalize this in a feature spec document, and then we go into the solution design phase, which we will talk about in detail throughout the talk anyway. And then the rest is like standard delivery.
Okay, so you're using mainly Kanban, but okay, let's do a small role play, okay? And since we want to talk about how engineering teams work with product teams, and I think it's a good way to approach this. So I will play a product person today as a role. I'm not a product person by myself, but I think I can try to imitate, and I will come up with some requests and let you guide the conversation. Okay, is that okay?
That's perfect. I like examples.
Okay, so first let's keep an example. Let's say, okay, we're gonna make a movie app. Okay, so users are able to see the list of movies. They are also able to see the details, rate the movies, make comments on it, and etc. And so, and we have a home feed, okay, and the main screen. So, and I, as a product owner, I think we can start fresh because we have some problems with user growth, and I believe this. And we work with like maybe other product teams, other designers. We came to you and saying that, okay, we wanna refresh the home feeds. So, what would you say in this case directly?
Okay, so if you follow me on GitHub and all the blog posts I did, all of my examples are movie list apps. So I'm really familiar with this space. And I'm glad you chose this example.
Maybe this was intentional.
Maybe, yeah. So you want to build a new home feed.
Yes.
I guess I would say like, do you have the requirements?
Yes, let's imagine I have everything listed down.
Do we know how the UI will look?
Yes, we work with designers and the specs are ready, design specs are ready, it's published, so you can directly access it maybe via Zeppelin.
Okay, perfect. And
so
you probably expect me to start working.
I mean, exactly. Like requirements are ready, so design is ready. Can you start?
So no, because like I think it's good to start with a bad example. This shouldn't happen. This should not like the product development process should not look like this. In this way, an engineer cannot really contribute to anything in a process like this.
Okay.
So we should not do this now.
Okay, so I think I made a mistake as a product owner here. So in which stage should I involve an engineer? In like what would be the engineer's expectation?
I think your role as a product owner should be to find out potential problems in the app, and then you're probably familiar with our company goals as well, and then you can kind of think which problems you have at hand would better fit to the company goal, so that we can talk around these problems. So I think you should come up with a problem.
Okay. So what's our problem here?
So let's say.
I said
so
we are.
Why did you?
Yeah, go on.
So like, why do you want to improve the home feed?
Yeah, we are lacking user growth. So we took a look at the maybe analytics data, and we saw that people are just coming maybe to a home screen. They're just leaving without maybe taking a look at the movie details. And we want them to spend more time in the app and to enjoy all the features that we built for them. So that's why I think the home feed doesn't work.
Okay, I see. And we can prove this with actual data. It's not just a feeling.
Yeah, it's backed with data. I see like we have maybe Google Analytics, maybe some other analytics that I took a look. So we have the data there.
Okay, so I trust you. I think you did your homework.
Hopefully.
And and as far as I see, we kind of have a retention problem in the app. So like people come in, people see the home feed, and then they leave the app and they never come back.
Yeah.
So so basically we started with a problem, and the problem was retention. Now, how do we solve it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, as I said, I came to you with all the design and requirements. So I think I solved it. I mean, I know maybe we should involve you in the earlier stage, but since we are sticking to the example here, how do we maybe change, or how do we get your input into our maybe existing requirements or design in this case?
So if you look at this feature, we want to build a home feed, and this home feed needs to exist both in iOS and Android. And these are just clients, so they will probably get the data from our platform. So I would say we should get our engineers in a room, and also like our designer in a room, and let them formulate a solution.
Okay.
And that solution, like we might have like lots of alternatives, and we should all talk around these alternatives and see. For example, maybe you will suggest something, but I will say that will take like 2 months to implement. So maybe you will deprioritize it. So that's the kind of value you're getting out of getting all the stakeholders in a room and getting their ideas.
Okay. So we formulate the solution, and like we sat together in a room, maybe, or virtual room in these days, basically. And we come up with a solution, say that it doesn't take too much time. It is fairly easy to implement or change the existing clients for both iOS and Android. And what do we do next?
What do we do next? So if we have alternatives, you should probably do some prototyping and user testing. But do you think we should skip this? Let's say we did this and then we ended up with a solution.
Exactly. Let's skip this part.
Okay. So at this point, we will probably have some kind of document which has all the findings that we have out of like after all these processes, and then we now know what to do. And after user testing, generally lots of things change. So I think first we should formalize what we want to do from a product perspective, and then put it in a document. And we call this feature spec in most cases.
Okay. So basically the feature specs includes what we find and how we are going to solve the problem, like the formulation, basically, right?
Yeah, from a product perspective.
So no technical things inside.
I mean, you can add technical details, but you should probably not include a class diagram, for example.
Who draws class diagram these days? So
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
okay, so we have this document, and now I think we can start, right? Directly coding, because we have outlined. What do you think? Can we start?
Not quite. And before we go on, I also want to stress something out. So after this process, actually everybody in the team has a deep understanding of the solution we have on the product side. So this, when I say product spec, this is actually not something that PO has to do. Product owner has to do. This could be anyone in the team. Like all these documents and outputs generated during this time, I think it should be collaborative enough. And generally, what we do is the PO creates this document, puts all the decisions we had up to that point, and then we also review as engineers, and then we update it directly, and then just tell everyone that this is how it is. This is the update, and if everybody is okay with it.
Okay. I want to ask the question from T. So what do you think about objective key results approach on this stage? So maybe we need to, or do we need to include this OKR into the product specs? So
I think for like this we include this in the problem statement. So like if we solve this problem, this will contribute to this OKR. And there is no reason not to include this in the product spec.
Yeah, I like this approach because it generally helps a lot on the technical side. Like when you know what you want to achieve, basically, or what is your goal in a specific way, then it is easier to come up with a technical result that you need to test yourself against this goal. Okay, so we have the specs, and now I want to go to next steps. As I just assume now, I'm stepping a bit out of my product ownership, that we need to come up with a technical design, right? This is where I want to talk about more.
Okay.
Let me ask a question also to chat. What are the important aspects of the technical design? So what do we need it, or maybe why do we need this design? So what do you think, chat? Also, do we need the technical design, or just we can start directly coding? Göksel, what do you think?
So I think solution design phase is important because at this point now we need to implement something, and the implementation might have implications on the platform, for example, and in all the mobile clients as well. So like having a document listing out like all the assumptions we made, all the alternative technical solutions we have in mind, and having a space that people can like discuss and present their ideas. I think this is very, very valuable, and it also avoids a situation where people implement things and then realize, oh, there's a huge problem that we didn't think of, and we need to put it in trash and start over. So I think from this aspect, solution design is pretty important.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. It's a bit. I'm just thinking like having this helps. Just having this also helps a lot in these cases to have a better communication within the team. So what do we consider while designing the technical side? So during the technical design, like specifically as an engineer, what do you consider?
So as an engineer, like since you know the product you're building and you know why you are building that specific feature, you now have a deep understanding of that feature and where it can go. So like as with any solution, I think we would tend to make it more scalable, maintainable, flexible, so that we can, add more features on top of it with ease. All these different aspects that needs to be considered in the stage. And if you don't have this stage, there's actually no other place to think about these stuff. I also want to ask you, like, what would you consider in the stage? Not as a PO, but as an engineer.
Yeah, that makes my job easier now. So I consider firstly, yes, the major problem we are trying to solve, or the major areas that we are focusing on. Like, as you mentioned, is scalability important? Sometimes it is really not. I mean, sometimes the main important thing is just deliver it. It's also okay, and then fix it on the way, maybe. But I generally tend to focus on these kind of like scalability or testability, or maybe changeability, like flexibility is another thing. Because if you just leave me with it as an engineer, and then I personally think that flexibility is the most important thing when I design a system. I need to be able to change every specific aspect individually and independent from each other. So if I need to make a change, and eventually most of the products change, I can change it easily. So this is my approach. But sometimes you need to kick out the flexibility and think from the other side to make it really everything stick together, and then provide a one clear solution to solve another problem. That's my approach, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think like this is like in the technical design phase, everything is a trade-off basically. So you need to find a sweet spot, and like having all this context kind of helps you, find the sweet spot for your specific needs. So I think that this is why like it's pretty important. And what else should we talk about in this solution design phase?
I think architecture is one of the things, right? Like, or let's say, what else we can talk? Maybe alternatives. As we mentioned that we are talking, we need to consider the alternative approaches in the design, like the product design phase, or while we are formulating the solution. Should we include the alternatives there also? What do you think?
I think we should. And in this specific example, for example, you can build a home feed in like various ways. And you should like think about all the different ways that you can, receive this payload render on the screen. And then, compare the advantages and disadvantages. For example, let's say in the home feed example, probably at this stage, we have some like different types of content that we want to show on the home feed. And like there's a huge possibility that we will add more types of contents going forward. So probably you should consider a solution that only satisfies your current needs, and then a solution which can be flexible enough to add like more content types in the future, and then compare the time it needs to implement one or another, and then make a call according to your constraints.
Okay, let's say we made a call and we said, okay, we're gonna stick with one solution. And now what do we do next? Like, do we plan the architecture? Start with that one?
Yes, I think we can plan the architecture, and like architecture part, you can do it in various ways. You can go too deep. You can be like too abstract. Like there are different ways. Currently, this is kind of what works best for your team. But at Drop, we use C4 diagrams at the moment, and C4 was exactly what we needed at the time. And previous to this, we were designing class interfaces that was shared between iOS and Android projects. But we realized this was causing a lot of stress. Like it's really hard to find the perfect interface when you're at that stage in your technical design, and you probably find out things along the way, and you need to update this design so the document goes out of date. Like this was causing a lot of stress. So with C4, what we do is C4 stands for container, component, context, container, component, and code. And if you think about it, it's like a map. So in context, you show the generic context, like how the user is interacting with your app, and like what kind of external components you have. And then in the container diagram, you focus on like one specific part of your app. And then in the component diagram, for example, in this case, it would be the home feed component. You zoom into your home feed component and then break it into smaller components and like show how they communicate to each other. Is this, am I making sense? Or
I'm generally in favor for C4 model actually. So for me, it totally makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, like I really like this. And one more thing here. So basically, when you have a component diagram, you kind of know like what kind of components you have. You have a high level of abstraction, and like anybody who's looking at diagram can understand like what component does what. But when you actually go in and implement that diagram, sometimes you find there is something you didn't think in the communication. So to avoid this, to have a better overall diagram, we generally draw a communication diagram as well. And communication diagram is like, okay, this component tells this component, sends this component this message, and then it does this. So it's basically
like that's what I was gonna say.
So first this happens. So after this communication diagram, if you are not familiar with the feature, you would go into that document and see like what are the main components that you can search in the code, and then how those components communicate to each other, how they are supposed to communicate to each other at least.
Okay, so yeah, with the sequence diagrams are generally a good way also for onboarding people. And also I think C4 does the same thing as well. If you can keep updated all of them all the time. And since most of the technical documents or mostly the architecture documents are tend to get outdated quickly, there are some tools to help, of course, for building those things. But I think we need to have these kind of tools. But how do you approach? So like, of course, your architecture is going to change whenever you start coding, right? That's what I expect. And then all the diagrams will need to be updated. And how do you include this in your daily work? Like, do you do that? Do you update it? Or how can we make sure this step?
So in my complete honesty, we don't really update the diagrams going back. But generally the change we do are like very minor changes. So it doesn't really affect the big picture. And at that point, we probably don't bother updating the diagram. But I would say if there's a really big change, and at that point, you would probably need a different design. So you would go back to the drawing board.
Chat also, do you update your technical diagrams, like architecture diagrams or any kind of diagrams you have? Just write in the message. And I agree that they are going easily out of date, but I'd like to give this to shoulders of the new onboarding people. So whenever we have someone onboarding in our team currently, we somehow give them a task to update the diagrams. And I think it works fairly well, by the way, because first they see what is the intention in the beginning. and then they take a look at the code. They try to understand it in every aspect, and then they go back to update these things, and at the end they know the system better, and they know the code better, way better, and they understand the business needs and how we are solving, because the diagrams generally explains every business limitations, for example. And then later on, they have as a team, we have an up-to-date diagram. So this approach I really like. And since I am also personally, I'm onboarding in a new team, I'm working in payment systems at the moment. And in payment systems, you cannot imagine how many limitations you have. Like, and based on some countries even, everything is completely different. And this is generally a problem. And I spent like last 1 or 2 months updating our diagrams, and it was really helping to me as a person. So, okay, let's say we have the architecture ready. We don't update it, but it's ready. And what do we do next? So I want to go coding now, really. So do we have something in between? You are muted, by the way.
What do you mean by that?
So we have the architecture, diagrams, and everything ready. We planned, and as an engineer, I'm really looking forward to start coding. You know, like this is one thing. In the beginning, we talked, and I still cannot start coding. And if I jump into the product owner role again, and come on, I will come to you and say, come on, Göksel, let's start coding. I mean, what are we doing here? You know, because this is the general reaction that people get from product teams, saying that, okay, yeah, you design everything, you talk, and you always talk basically, and then you make plans, but you never take the action. Also, T said in the comments that how do we keep this balance? Because I'm impatient to start coding. How do we keep this balance? Or do we have a stage in between from architecture to the starting to coding? What do we have?
Okay, I see. So here, like this stage we are talking about, I think this should take a day at most. Sometimes you need to, get review from certain people, and like the time doesn't work out. But like the ideal would be to finish this in one day, and I think in the long run this would save time for you. So I think we should be on that mindset. And also, if a technical design phase takes too long, there's probably something wrong with it, and it's probably not helping us. It's like making things slow, like adding a lot of process to the delivery. That means something is wrong with the technical design. So like finding the balance is actually up to each team. So you need to find your own balance, I would say. And before transitioning to the code, I think after this, you should also consider testing. So like you will implement this, but then how do you make sure it is working and it keeps working? So we generally have a test design phase in which you design your test cases. Do you not like it?
I'm not sure. It feels a bit too much, It's like I want to start coding, as I said, but testing the design makes sense. But I would say when I start a new project, like when I start something really fresh, then I'm okay with testing the design of the technical design in general. But most of the time we are adding features, and sometimes we have a design already, an architecture approach in the app maybe, then we want to follow. And then it also limits.
No.
What do you mean?
That wasn't what I meant. I meant like designing your test cases.
Okay.
Just to make sure your feature will work. But again, if you really want to code, you could start coding and then design your test cases later on.
Yeah, I have one more highly important topic here is the estimation, actually, because I'm a PO, and if I jump into the PO again role,
I was expecting this.
So in general, I like the idea that Philip Metzger. I'm going to read from the book, by the way. It's software estimation book I have here. Philip Metzger observed decades ago that technical staff were fairly good at estimation, but were poor at defending their estimates. So this is the thing I like, because generally we give estimations, and then we start kind of a negotiation, And since we already planned and everything, we are of course communicating everything with product and engineering teams. Estimation is a generally critical topic. And I'm currently working in a team where there is no estimation, but we give some estimation, They call it rough estimation, but eventually you need to estimate something so the product teams can plan better or plan the next features easily. But in general, I like the idea of defending estimations. And maybe in the negotiation, personally, I say we can separate estimation with the commitment. And I want to understand what's your stand on this. Estimation is different than the commitment. We can say, okay, we can estimate that. We can say we can finish this feature in 6 months, for example, but we can commit to 5 months to deliver it in 5 months. Because maybe in 6 months we say we are 100% sure that we can deliver it in 6 months, but if we want to deliver it to 5 months, we are not 100% sure, but we can commit to it. I'm just trying to understand, I'm curious about what's your approach in the estimation. In which stage maybe we estimate, or how do you estimate in general?
So estimation comes after this technical design phase, because at that point you know what you will implement. And as you said, when you say rough estimate, I would say every estimation is kind of rough, and they are never accurate, and I don't think you can be 100% sure of anything anyway. So when somebody gives an estimation, so you should take that with a grain of salt anyway. And I think most people realizes this at this point anyway. So how do I approach estimation? We don't really use story points or anything like that at the moment, which is probably not very good. But this is something we are working on at the moment. And actually in the new year, we have a meeting around this stuff to give better estimations, basically. But the general approach is, when you know what to do, you kind of give a rough estimation with days, in this many days, I think I can finish this.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I update my estimation is I actually update it daily. So for each day, I know what I want to achieve, and I tend to update my team with all the progress I make. I probably share some videos of new features I built, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Continues to update it, and not even wait for the next morning to give a status update. That is what I mean. Just post it on the channel, and tell them if something goes wrong and not according to the plan. I think when you do this, people kind of get involved in your journey, and then realize if you want to, they kind of become a part of your journey, and better understand when you want to extend your estimation or whatever. Because when you give your estimation, you have certain assumptions, and those assumptions are mostly not true.
Okay, what do you include in your estimations? So let's say I came to you as a home feed design. We have architecture and everything is ready, and I want some estimation from you. So when you're estimating in your mind, what do you consider?
What do I consider?
Do you consider
implementing the feature?
Yeah, tests, for example, maybe, or code review times,
course,
deployment times, everything. How which specific or individual things that you consider?
So when a feature is in progress, that means that you are implementing it, making it work, and seeing it in your local machine that it works, and then also implementing your tests, opening it for code review, and merging it, and also like implementing UI tests. Like this can change from company to company, but if you don't have a manual QA, for example, you should also consider this time in your estimation.
Mm-hmm.
But again, this is what we do, but this can change from different team by team.
I rarely see people writing UI tests, and also like the tests that takes long time, like end-to-end tests, they are rarely written. Chat, is any one of you write these kind of tests? And also, like in the chat, T said, if you once said, I think T is one of the followers of yours. You said if you say you didn't have time to have a good code, then you are not a good engineer. I think it is also related to estimation. So do you involve this having a good code part also in estimations? Like, for example, you can go and write everything in, let's say in iOS specific, you can write everything in UI view controller pretty fast, basically. But if you spend more time to maybe go with Viper architecture, then you need more time. So how do you consider this? And also, does it make you a good engineer to approach this in this way?
I don't remember when I said this, so I'm not really sure about that. But anyway, you said considering the architecture, what kind of approach you will take. So like every team has some kind of standard in code review and some kind of expectation.
Yeah.
So of course, in your estimation, you should consider it like you will implement it properly. And when I say proper, it is defined by your team. So like make sure you follow that. And also sometimes when you are developing a feature, that might include some kind of exploration, some kind of experimentation. You should also include this. For example, if your team recently decided to take a different approach, for example, you might have started using Swift UI. And if you don't have any Swift UI experience, you should also take this into account when you're providing your estimation. So it's not like, I think I also did this before. Estimation is not only the time you spend coding. It is like from start to end, delivering it to, merging it to your master branch and putting it on the store.
There are many meetings in between as well. I tend to forget the meetings, to be honest, but
especially
it takes like around 40% of my time, the meetings or writing someone or all the communication overhead. And I tend to forget these. And I started thinking about all the time, saying that, okay, I take a look at my calendar, and I always do. I'm not estimating at the moment, but whenever I estimate something, I first take a look at my calendar to see how busy I am with meetings, and then I add some communication overhead percentage, and then I try to estimate some things. Yeah, good.
That's a good approach.
Yeah, so since we started coding and everything, and now let's say as an engineer, I face a critical issue, right? Because things happen, you never know. And I need to rework this home screen again from the maybe from beginning but from the really early stages, I need to rework it. And then my delivery is delayed. I estimated everything. I said, I'm going to finish it in 3 weeks. Now 3 weeks, I'm in the third week. It passed. What do we do? How do we approach this? Also, like chat, how do you approach when you need to rework? Like, what do you say to your product owners? Do you have any problems in these stages? Just write down in the chat. Yes, Göksel, I'm listening to you.
So yes, as you said, like things happen, and it's a part of the job. I know it's not pleasant to anybody, but I would suggest like being fully transparent, and explaining the situation in detail to not to repeat the same mistake in the future. And the way I'm communicating is this: generally, I explain the context, I explain my initial assumptions, and then I explain what happened, why my assumption was wrong, and then I provide options on how to proceed. So at that stage, you can go back to the drawing board, design everything from scratch, or you might need to make a change on the product side, decrease the scope or like whatever. This is a decision you need to make with your team. But I would say be completely transparent and provide options. I think providing options is also really important because you own the situation. Like you know why it happened, and you also probably know what could happen next. So just share this, and ask for help if needed.
Help from whom? Like product or other engineers?
To your team, anybody. It could be like if you want to decrease the scope because you don't think you can make it the timeline, you can go ask help from your product owner. And if you think there's a technical challenge you cannot solve, you should ask your engineer friends to have a look. But just inform your team and don't be like you're lost for 5 days and you come up and you say, okay, something really bad happened, but I was hiding this. That is not nice. So I think being transparent is always nice.
Yeah, true. Samet, welcome, by the way. So I agree this being nice, and the communication is the key thing, I think. Like whenever I remember I reworked, or maybe I had some projects that I completely failed from the beginning when we, with the initial commit part, and we needed to start from scratch after 10 commits. And then the key was there is saying directly, talking with the team leads and the team and the product owner, saying that, okay, these things happened, and now we're going to take this another approach, and we have maybe the third approach we already have, and then we talk. And that was the kind of a good solution. Even if I did a big mistake there, everyone welcomed very well, very warmly, because I tried to communicate, I tried to involve them in the beginning when we started having problems, and then later on, when there was a big rework needed, they already kind of expecting, they knew that we were having problems, and then we need to do this again. Okay, so also, I'm thinking like, let's say we did this, like all the work, everything is gone, everything is done, and we submit the app and we release the new home feed, okay? But later on, we hit another technical design problem. So let's say our app home feed cannot handle the pagination, maybe. We didn't see it in the tests and etc. and everything, and we didn't see it in technical design as well. And we had some problems, maybe network-related problems. Let's say in slow network areas in some countries that it is not really loadable in a faster way. And we are losing a lot of user. And how do we understand that our technical design had a mistake there? Like we didn't consider. How do we understand our technical design is not working? And how do we communicate this through with other teams and product teams and engineering teams, this problem?
Okay, so to be able to understand if something doesn't work, you might rely on user reports and your crash reports, but in general, your solution needs to be observable. So when you're observing your solution, how it is performing, if you notice a problem, and I think this is perfect and normal, like there's no perfect technical design anyway, so you might hit these problems. If it's a really core problem, I might, like, I generally tend to, make this a part of the next technical design phase, maybe update the template to add a note there, like, consider slow networks, for example. This was a really good example. So we generally, have really high speed network, and we test everything under that condition, but maybe things doesn't really work out in slow networks. So if we hit this problem once, and if we think this is a problem that can apply all the other solutions, one solution could be to add it to your template. But how do you understand something isn't working? It's like you need to observe your solution when it's out in the market. You should not forget about it.
Yeah, how do you observe it?
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, yes, you answered by saying that you go back and edit to the template. So in the next time, whenever you need to take a new look into technical design, that you are aware of this problem. Yeah, but basically, for my understanding, you basically release a hotfix for the current problem for sure. This is not a case.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you can pick two strategies, so we talked all the way through from the beginning till the end, and now I want to ask if you can pick two strategies to have a great product and engineering relationship. What would they be? Like, chat, this question is also for you too. Give me one strategy from you, and I'm gonna ask Göksel two strategies. So Göksel is a bit more now. Yes, Göksel.
Okay. So I would say definitely try to get involved in the product discussions as early as possible, so that you can be useful. I know it can be tricky in certain companies because of the company culture, but like whenever you can, you're entitled to say your opinion about it. You are the engineer in the team, and you are there for designing a solution, not just implementing something that somebody forced onto you. And the other one would be, I think as engineers we should always try to understand the problem rather than the solution, because like the solution is irrelevant if you don't know the problem itself.
Yeah, the last one, this is one of my favorites, and I think I wrote it in one of my blog posts as well, saying that like I like to focus on the problem, and I generally think it's a better idea to love the problem, not the solution, because when you love the solution, you are basically putting a bad glasses and then not seeing it through everything. And when you love the problem, actually, you can offer better solutions. You can offer different solutions. You can offer alternatives. And then you can pick according to problem, not just focusing on solution. But I see many times that people just love their solution. They just say, I did very good job here. Oh, look at this code. It's amazing. It's working very well, and etc. And I think this is not a good approach. The good approach is, as I agree with you, first understand the problem, and in my opinion, love the problem, not the solution. Yeah.
Yeah, well said.
Okay, Göksel, I think we are coming to an end slowly. Would you like to add anything else?
I think we covered a lot so far. I'm actually happy with all the things we covered, and I'm surprised that we are not over 1 hour. I think this will be my first stream, which I am not over 1 hour. So probably problem is not me. Okay, so I don't think I have anything else to add.
Okay, chat. Do you have any questions to people who are watching? Do you have any questions to Göksel or me? Or we can, if you don't have any, I think we can close the stream slowly. And also, while we are waiting chat to ask the question, Göksel, how people can reach you?
I think they can use my Twitter. I believe you have it in the event anyway. I'm also active in my GitHub account, and they can follow me in my website. I used to post a lot of blogs, but recently I haven't been so active in the last year. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I posted the Twitter links and your website as well, your blog, so people can check out your previous blog posts. And we had a common we had a common blog actually with you before. Then we didn't add any blog posts there, so we abandoned it. But it was really nice as an experience. Okay. Yeah, so I guess the chat doesn't have any questions, so I'm gonna hit the close button today, and then thanks everyone for watching. Thanks for all your comments and questions. And next week we're gonna have another session, and I'm gonna announce that one soon. And then see you soon. Bye bye. Thanks Göksel for being here.
See you. Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks, man. Bye bye.